You probably saw my wonderful wife and campaign manager, Deborah. She makes the circuit for me. If you have not heard her, you heard our good friend, Miss Ruth and Mary. I'd like to thank them for all the hard work that they do. I would like to thank everyone for showing up and being involved and being curious. Because someone said earlier about waking up to the issue. And typically, it doesn't affect you, you don't get involved. But with what's happening lately, has anybody priced a good ribeye steak lately?
Yeah.
Have you had to fill up a diesel truck or even gas? Okay, inflation's getting carried away, and it's a direct result of what's going on in our country right now through the acts of our administration. Once you realize what's going on, it is not, as they said earlier, it's not a Republican issue, it is not a Democrat issue, it's an everyday people issue.
American.
It's an American issue. Now, the American First agenda has exploded. Those of us who have lived it a very long time already, working in the nuclear industry, most of your contracts, a lot of people don't know this, are specified American-made products. And it's by code specification, it's essentially the law of the land. It needs to be, for the most part, if it is available stateside, it's not a specialty item that you just cannot get here. That needs to be the way that it is across all of our different industries. I don't like relying on someone like China for prescription drugs or other components needed to make those drugs. So what's going on now is that our installed leader
Yeah.
is enabling them to have leverage over us. Now, it has been, with the failed withdrawal from Afghanistan, made much worse, because guess who moved into the Air Force Base we abandoned?
Taliban.
China. So I can see that everybody keeps up with current events, and that you're a little more knowledgeable than the average person who may or may not vote. Now, I'm not going to go through a lot of the other issues. I rely on questions mostly. But before we get too long, has anyone here, can we have a show of hands of say District 20? How many people, District 20, who used to have Alcee Hastings? All right, so the only thing, if you voted in the last election, find 2 people who didn't vote. Make sure that they're registered and get them to the polls, because there's only 59,000 registered Republicans in District 20. Not a lot of people know this. It is a plus 28 Democrat district. They outnumber us by 200 and some odd thousand. There's 268,000 registered Democrats in that district. It's 6-1. Now, the encouraging part is that there was approximately 20,000 NPA Democrats voted for me when I ran against Hastings, because we got 68,000 votes. Now that's encouraging, because now on the ballot you have state representatives, Broward County leadership, and other people on the Democrat side who have all the same agenda: free, 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 free. And we're starting to see the effects of that now. So if you have those NPA and Democrat friends, casually just ask them questions. Get them involved, let them speak their mind, because there are a lot of people who, through peer pressure, will not willingly admit that they crossed the line and voted for the other side. We understand this. That's why you have not seen a big media campaign or anything, because in a special election, it is notorious for having a very low turnout. So we're hoping that Democrats stay at home when they win their primary, and they have 200,000 votes in the primary, while Republicans have probably around 10 to 12,000. They won't bother to show up. That's why it's important for you to keep our Republican base motivated, and those that are NPA and some conservative Democrats, to let them know that there's somebody that can walk, talk, chew bubble gum, has a little bit of common sense, and who is not just going to be a tool of a PAC or a organization who feels that they can control you and they want to, like Big Pharma, you have lobbyists. That's not me. If anybody knows me personally, they know that, well, I'm really not into authority. I don't follow orders just because they're orders. I vet and I do my research and I do what's best for myself and my fellow citizens. And that's the bottom line, because as I tell them, in industrial construction, you take a job to do it, when it's done, you get laid off, the job's complete, you move on to the next one. Congress was originally set up that way, that you go, you do a few terms, because term limits are very important. You then, after completing your legislative agenda, go home to live under those laws. How many people here have seen where Congress exempted themselves from vaccine mandates? That is the most absurd thing, because if it's good enough for the populace, it should be good enough for you. The same thing goes back to, say, Obamacare, when they have their Cadillac plans, and everybody else. You must, and that will be one of the things that I bring forward, no law shall be passed that you in legislation or the executive branch will be exempt from. If you pass something saying you gotta have a shot, well, you're first in line. Because you cannot do that. We do not need a new aristocracy in this country. And that's what they think they are, as a political aristocracy. I mean, if you look at Pelosi, Maxine Waters, AOC, all of them, they don't think that the regular people and the rules that apply to them should apply to themselves.
The rules of
And it's wrong. Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So, any topics that haven't been touched on previously that anybody has questions about?
Just want to make a statement. His district